وقف الطفل وحده والليالي ورصاص من حوله وجنود. وقف الطفل والحجارة أكوام وعيناه عزمة وصمود. وعيناه عزمة وصمود. فلسطين فلسطين. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, free, 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 free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, free, free, free.
How can I start? Can't get the image out of my heart when we've seen the bodies found in a mountain of parts. Netanyahu told you just another child of the dark. Clear it's gonna take much more than thousands to march, more than a speech, more than a poem, more than a track of music. Gonna take more than a sit down with Bassem Youssef. Even bringing back ambassadors is an act that's useless long as you pump oil for Apaches and the tanks they using. Freedom just beyond reach for people you cannot see. He's wheezing and cannot breathe and screaming through the concrete, looking for his 4 children. The bombs leave structures that I wouldn't want to call buildings. My fingers pointed at this government, you all killed them. Tell me that you wouldn't take up arms if those were your children. Let me make the factor clear. If bombs were manufactured here and they want the land as theirs because of natural gas in there, feel death in the atmosphere while we hapless stand and stare. And a little boy begs for his brother's strand of hair. Truth is I don't know how anyone can live after digging for their dead kids buried under bricks. Israel is a terror state, terrorists that terrorize. I testify my television televised, I'm telling lies. This is not a war, it is systematic genocide. But whatever they try, Palestine will never die. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to say your name. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to say your name. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to say your name. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to say your name.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, free, 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 free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, free, 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 free.
They bomb churches and paramedics. It's hurting, the panic spreading. Hospitals where the doctors do C-sections, no anesthetics. The pressure is manifesting, humanity stands connected. Masses seem apathetic and actually just accept it. When our grandchildren ask us, what did we do to stop it? I'm determined to say I did more than make music on it. It's why we shut down arms factories. You can try stopping us. Palestine action's the opposite of white phosphorus. We tell them on the television, but they never listen. Tell Piers Morgan that resistance isn't terrorism. They want them fled or missing, death or prison, endless killing. I seen a father hold his baby up, the head was missing. Imagine demolition of home where your parents living. Kings won't say a thing, but at least we know that Yemen's with them. Ethnic cleansing, it ain't hard to see the stages, but Gaza as a graveyard of the invaders. Ears close to the savagery, clear though when there's clarity.
Aquaba, Ago, greetings, welcome, happy Sunday, or whichever day it is when you're viewing this. Welcome to this week's episode of Our Ancestors' Voices, a weekly program sponsored by the All African People's Revolutionary Party. We're so glad that you decided to join us this Sunday for our very important topic. Where are all these anti-African identity videos coming from? We're going to look at social media today and why there are just so many videos that are really focused on making the point to people of African descent that you are not African, you're everything but African, and why those videos are happening, and some ideas we have about where that whole aspect is coming from. So we're glad that you're joining us. We give honor and respect to the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere whose land this rightfully belongs to. We know that they don't claim it as property. Property is a capitalist concept, but it is their land and they are fighting for their just self-determination, which requires them to get their land back. So we stand in complete respect and solidarity to their efforts to accomplish that. And we also, of course, honor our African ancestors. We would never disrespect them by claiming to be anything other than what we are, African people. And for those people out here who have such an important concern about what that means in terms of, these people want to always talk about, well, Africa is not the original name. We don't give a damn what you call it. Our point is that we are connected to that land base and our, not just where we come from, but our future is connected to that land base. So if you want to call it the Black land base, if you want to call it people who the Cupid Shuffle land, then we're Cupid Shuffle people. That's our point. So we are connected to Africa. And if you don't want to be connected, that's your ignorant problem. We are going to promote truth that Africa is our home. So we thank you for joining us. My camera is off because the internet here where I live, I've mentioned before, I live in a neighborhood predominated by people of color, meaning African people, indigenous people, or what people call Latino people, and Asian people. That's 75% of the people in this neighborhood where I live. And so the internet, the fiber optics, and all of that technology is not up to date. So even though we have everything that we could possibly have in our household to produce quality internet, we still have issues. So putting the camera off hopefully will help some of that. And I'll just keep going and get us started as we normally do with our brief introductions. Our Ancestors' Voices is sponsored by the All African People's Revolutionary Party, as we mentioned, the AAPRP. And the APRP is a revolutionary, independent, mass, pan-African political party with its base in Africa. And our objective, what we are fighting for, is Pan-Africanism. We are not fighting to get Kamala Harris elected. We are not fighting to get that European clown running against her elected. We are not fighting to do any of those things. We are fighting for the empowerment of the masses of African people all over the world. 2 billion of us living in almost 120 countries worldwide. And the reason why we live in 120 countries is because Africa has been under attack for 500 plus years. Africa produces more wealth than all the other land bases in the world combined, yet Africa is the poorest land base on the entire planet, and African people are the poorest people on the entire planet. And so this is why we know that Pan-Africanism, which is defined correctly as one unified socialist Africa, is the solution to this nonsense. And it is a solution which will bring about the self-determination and dignity that we are missing today. So that's why we're fighting for that. And our work to achieve Pan-Africanism is outlined in clear terms in Kwame Nkrumah's Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare. The picture is displayed on this page of that book. It is our guide. In that book, he talks about the necessity to do work to unite a mass Pan-African, revolutionary Pan-African fighting force that exists all over the world with one clear objective, one unified socialist Africa. And that, you all, is the work that we are doing in the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And our Ancestors' Voices, this particular program, one of the many vehicles we use to educate people about our work, is hosted each week by myself, Ajamu, and my biological and ideological daughter, Shakura, both of us who are very active within the AAPRP. So to start us off on our topic this week, why there are so many anti-African videos on social media, I will turn it over to Shakura.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, kind sir. Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Hello, hello. Woo-wee. We are going to ruffle some feathers today. That is the disclaimer that we want to start off with. Social media. Oh boy. Okay. So we want to acknowledge that social media is a magnificent tool. It is absolutely outstanding at how it has managed to bring so many people closer together. It's closed the gap, if you will, internationally with how we are able to communicate more faster with more opportunities to engage in conversations. We can think about, the ways that we can post things versus messaging people. I think about in the All African People's Revolutionary Party, we use different formats such as Google or Microsoft Teams or whatnot. But even through doing that, I'm thinking about, the dependence that we have on WhatsApp and how it's so awesome that I could message someone that lives in Azania or what you are colonized to know as South Africa and be able to get information back from them within 20 minutes or so, assuming the time difference is appropriate for them when I message them. And so the point is social media has been groundbreaking. It's been a game changer, especially for those of us that are a little less likely to be on as many platforms, but we're still able to get information that we need. I always joke with my dad when I tell him about the Ring app, if you have a Ring camera, or if you are on Nextdoor, and how a lot of people will use it as a snitching opportunity to snitch on their neighbors or whatnot. Some of it is semantics, some of it is relevant, helpful information for what's going on in the community. And a lot of it is just BS, right? And so I think what we're trying to focus on today is helping many of us kind of unpack how we can use social media to really advance the struggles of people everywhere instead of buying into the propaganda that capitalism and imperialism wants us to buy into, and using social media in a way that they would see beneficial to promote their agendas. We need to step away from that and we need to unleash ourselves from that. But first, we have to be made aware of how, in fact, we are being used to do just that. And so that kind of brings us into this challenge, if you will, where when we think about what some of the circumstances are that we're up against when it comes to social media, it is a vehicle where basically you as a person can speak about anything you would like to speak about. You can share your opinion about any matter, any topic, any ideology that you have, and no one expects you to be credentialed, qualified. No one expects you to have experience. No one expects you to know what you're talking about. In fact, because you are speaking about it on social media, all people will show recognition and respect. And usually we do that by liking something, when you don't necessarily have to be speaking about things that are evidence based. You don't have to be speaking about things that are based on truth. You don't have to be speaking about things that will help advance the society that people are living in. None of those things are qualifiers. You can just come on and say whatever you want. And so I think if we really think about how magnificent social media can be, we also need to be honest about how dangerous that can be. Because as I just said, the whole purpose of using social media is because capitalist imperialism has already taught us and framed for us how we need to be appropriating ourselves through social media. They have already framed those messages for us. That's what propaganda is. They've already pushed those messages to us. They have enlightened us to help us understand how we need to be selling their product. This is why, we've talked about this in previous seminars, but this This is why we have so many people who are pushing for products that they have, because those manufacturers of those products are sending them a check. So they have to use their product in the videos. Otherwise, they're not going to get paid. And I think about families that are making content 24/7, because now in today's market, they don't have stable income. So they are quote unquote social media influencers, because that's how they're making their income. That's how they're paying their bills. That's how they're keeping food on the table for their children. Literally showing us how they can go to the grocery store and spend less than $20 on a dinner plan, because they don't have the money to eat out. And they tell us that in these videos, right? And so, like, that's a sign that people are struggling. People are struggling. And capitalism is laughing in our faces, because all the while they're still making money, they're still profiting, they're still doing what they need to do. Commercials are still being aired. We're still seeing these commercials for Lumi, and getting your dog registered as an emotional support, and all these other commercials that are on YouTube that I'm trying to recall now. And so these are different ways that we can go about it. And even as I'm recalling these commercials, this is still propaganda. I just want to make sure we're clear on that, right? And so just being able to understand how we're all being used in that way. We're all being used. We are all vessels for that. You may not even like some of the products that you see, but it doesn't matter. You're not in control of what's being broadcasted. You are not in control of that. And so I think about that, and I think about how, we have been pushing you all to join an organization that's working for justice. We've been advocating for the benefits of it. We've been encouraging you. We've shared different organizations that are actively still doing the work today, and we are still pushing that. And I think it's important, especially as we start to move into the fall semester or fall year, if you will. I'm a student, so I'm thinking semester, so apologies. But as we start to move into the shift of the weather changing and the year progressing, if you live in the United States, you're going to be pushed with more and more propaganda about this upcoming election, right? And so, we've already made it clear that we, as an organization that's working for justice, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, we don't necessarily believe that voting is a technique that we ourselves as an organization would use. That's not a technique that we would pursue. However, if you feel like that's a technique that you need to adopt, we don't necessarily, diss you for that. We hope that you have a evidence-based reason as to why you're doing it, instead of just doing something someone else told you to do, because we want you to think for yourselves, right? And so even if we don't necessarily agree with that technique, if that's something you believe in, and if you can explain why you are doing it, then we can't help but respect that, right? We just want you to think for yourselves and be independent. But at the same time, that's not what's happening. I think that between propaganda pushing for the conservative side and for propaganda pushing for the left, I think people are not at a point where they can think for themselves. I think people are at a point where they see things that make them feel comfortable, meaning somebody that looks like you, and you might be sold on that. You might be sold on the fact that they might identify with the same gender as you. You might even think, wow, it's been so long and I never thought this day would come. And those might be some of the motivating things that are driving you to consider going to the polls this November. Or maybe you agree with the other person who's running, and you make so much money, you don't want taxes to impact you. Whatever your reason for why you're voting, that's neither here nor there. What we are pushing today is for you to truly consider doing both. And what we mean by that is, if voting is so important to you, then don't stop doing that. We're not asking you to stop doing that. We are asking you to join an organization that's working for justice. So if you're going to vote no matter what, why not do both? Because I have to ask you, in all the years that you've been voting, what changes have you seen take place? And I mean changes for the better that would truly help advance all people, not just certain people that already are born with silver spoons in their mouths, not just male identifying people, not just heterosexual people, and not just people who were able differently. I'm talking about things that have advanced the struggle for all people, for the environment, for the planet, for the animals, for the plants. When has that ever happened since the beginning of America having a president? I cannot name a time where that has happened because capitalism has never cared about any of those entities I just mentioned. And capitalism has always been the controlling economic force. So, if you are so insistent on voting this November, then join an organization that's working for justice and go cast your vote and just see how much of a difference you can actually make in this organization. And maybe try to join it before November and then measure how much of a change you've made between now, August 25th, and November 4th, and just see what a big difference it has been. If that's not the organization for you, drop that organization and join another one. But if you're insistent on keeping your old tactics, why not incorporate a new one in addition to the old one and just see what happens? Because I guarantee you, some of the same old stuff that's been happening is going to continue to happen. And in our opinion, voting is the definition of insanity, where unless you change the system itself, capitalism, imperialism, homophobia, patriarchy, all these systems of oppression that are rooted and how this country is developed, not to mention the land being stolen, the murder and the rape of indigenous people. That is the background that this country has. So unless you change all of that, none of the other things are going to change because the root, the base is tainted. The ground is toxic, quite literally. Okay. So we're just encouraging you to try some different approaches. We're encouraging you to be open to some different things. We're encouraging you to take responsibility for how you can make a difference. And no one ever said all you have to do is vote. No one ever said that. That is perhaps one of the easiest things you can do, when in actuality, actually organizing with an organization that's working for justice would require a lot more dedication, time, and effort. And so we're encouraging you to do both. That way you can truly get some experiences where you can see how you can feel the goodness that you feel when you are making a difference. Next slide, please. So we are also saying that with capitalism controlling social media, and with capitalism and imperialism defining and promoting and determining how social media is presented, how it's available, how the messages are crafted to be put out there, the very danger of not having to be credentialed, not having to be I can't remember the word, not buffered, but not having to be qualified. I guess that's not the word I want to use, but that's the one that's on my head right now. But not being able to be checked, basically, to make sure that you were credentialed and that you have what you need. We can basically think about how that's the form that's happening right now. And so with social media, it's used in these capitalist societies. And basically, you can picture going to the downtown area of any major city. Take your pick on the major city, any major city in the world. And you can think about how social media under capitalism basically means that any random person can set up a microphone in that downtown area of any city in the world. And what they can do is just start saying whatever they want. They can start speaking about things that we know are simply not true. They can start spewing out lies. They can start spewing out things that are not going to help advance the struggles of people everywhere. And they are doing that. That is literally what they are doing now. That is literally what is happening now. This is why it is so difficult to tolerate some of the information that I hear, because I'm thinking about how none of what people are saying is based on truth. It's based on logic, in my opinion. And it's crazy to me how so many people believe it, they applaud it, they will follow it. And I think to myself, and this is why thinking for yourself is so important. This right here. Because if you don't have the ability to do that, then people will tell you if you drink gasoline, it'll clear out your digestive system. And next thing you know, people will go to a gas station and start drinking gasoline from the pump. If you don't know how to think for yourself, that's what happens. That is exactly what happens, where you're following. And like I said, these people are not credentialed. That's the crazy part to me. These people have no idea what they're talking about. And yet they have an audience, they have a following, they have people that would literally do whatever they suggest. And so this is the danger, you all, that we're talking about. And you know what makes it worse? You are feeding right into capitalism. You are feeding right into imperialism, because they're already telling you what to do. Imperialism is already telling you what to do. And now they have their little puppets to tell you what to do on top of that, which means you are not in a position at all to start critiquing how crazy some of these things are that they're sharing with you. You're not in a position to think about how much nonsense they're spewing out to you. You're not in a position to stop and say, that doesn't make any sense. And it's okay if you stop and say, that doesn't make any sense. It's okay if you think about it and say to yourself, yeah, no, that's not working for me, instead of just going with the flow, because no one wants to speak up, I guess, because if you speak up, then that means you're lame, or a loser or whatever. But you've got to think for yourselves, you all. And again, being an organization that's working for justice, it helps you develop those kind of skills, because you may not have experience thinking for yourself. You live in a world where capitalism tells you what to do every day, all day, 24/7, 365. So we understand that that's a muscle that needs to be developed. But the question is, how are you going to develop that muscle? Are you going to sit back and not do the exercise that's required? Or are you going to actually try to put forth some effort to do that? And then if I can take it a step further before I pass it back to Comrade Ajamu, are you going to raise the next generation to just be sedentary ideologically and to just take information that people are giving them as well? So by the time that your children go up, they don't have any capabilities to make any decisions for themselves, because you didn't teach them how to do that. You didn't teach them how to be critical. You didn't teach them how to think for themselves. You didn't teach them that it was okay to be critical. You didn't teach them that it was okay to think for themselves, especially when they're in a classroom and none of the other students are practicing that. How are they going to be able to stand on their own 2 feet or sit in their chair and still be able to confidently make their own decisions? This is what we're coming up against, you all, because capitalism has already shown us time and time again that it is very well known for doing horrific attacks against people who did not deserve to be attacked. And if we're not in a position to think for ourselves, then not only are we not going to be able to speak out against it, we're not going to be able to organize against it, which means these horrific attacks will keep happening. If they keep happening, then none of us will be able to live in a world that is better and that is justice loving for people, because we're all going to be terrorized and eventually none of us are going to be alive anymore. So we have to think about what our responsibility is. We have to think about why we are on this earth. And I guarantee you, you're not on this earth to just do what the capitalist system tells you to do. You are so much more than that. You are so much more than that. But do you believe that? Do you believe that you have the ability to think for yourself? Do you see it as an appropriate tool that you can think for yourself? If it's scary, that's okay. Maybe you start small by supporting Pan-Africanist organizations. Maybe you're not ready to join, but you should still be supporting a different Pan-Africanist organization every month, let's say. Pass when it comes time to vote. You should be supporting a different Pan-Africanist organization until the end of this year. And then maybe by January, you'll be ready to take the next step and go to the meeting. Maybe by January, you'll be ready to call them and just sit in on the meeting. Maybe you're not ready to participate yet, but you're going to have to figure out what that step looks like for you. You're going to have to figure out how important this is to you. You're going to have to figure out how much time you're willing to put into it. Maybe you need to budget out your schedule so that you can prioritize this, because the same exact things are going to keep happening no matter who's in office, no matter what office is currently controlling the house, whatever rhetoric, BS, propaganda they're putting out there. I guarantee you things are still going to get worse for the poor people, for the colonized people, for the non-male people, for the differently abled people, for our LGBTQ comrades, for anyone who does not have a silver spoon in their mouth when they are born. Life is going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be very difficult. It's difficult now, but it's about to get a lot worse if we don't fight back. Ashe.
Ashe, obrigada, asante sana, medasi. Thank you, Shakura. And before I leave off of this slide, I just want to contextualize for those that are looking at it or those that aren't looking at it, what it's talking about, the example of putting a microphone on the street in any city. There was a radio station. I'm here. I live in Northern California, and there's a radio station in Berkeley, California, which is about an hour from where I am, called KPFA, and it's a part of the Pacifica network of radio stations that have a strong left wing slant. And what they used to do on Tuesday nights at KPFA is they would take a microphone into downtown Berkeley and they would just set it up on the sidewalk, and anybody could come along and say whatever they wanted to say on the microphone. There were no restrictions. It's a public service station, so there was no censoring. You could say whatever you wanted to say. And every time I think about social media, I think about that. That was 40 years ago when that was happening at KPFA. But I always think about that because it's exactly what you have with social media today, in that you would have some people come by and they would say things that made a lot of sense, right? Just like you'll have some things come through social media that make a lot of sense. But the overwhelming majority of the people that stopped at that microphone on the sidewalk were uttering complete nonsense. Some people would air their relationship drama. Some people would just talk about how drugs should be freely available for everybody who wanted to use them. Some people would advance conspiracy theories about alien life on Earth or whatever, came to their mind. Some people would just ramble incoherently and you didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And so that's really what you have with social media, what I just described. And if you're not looking at this slide, you should be, because it's speaking directly to this when we talk about social media and Africa as we get deeper into the subject for today. And there on the screen, there's a picture of Africa, and there's a sign pointing towards Africa, and it says progress, and there's a sign pointing in the opposite direction saying disasters, and Western media is 100% focused in the direction of disasters. And then there's a word bubble saying you'll never see him turn the other side. And this is the point that we're making about social media, is that social media is designed for entertainment. That's its purpose. It's an entertainment mechanism. So because it's an entertainment mechanism, that means by nature, it's going to cater to the superficial elements, right? It's not going to be designed. That's why social media applications, whether you're talking about Instagram, X, Facebook, Threads, TikTok, all of them, they're all soundbite oriented. It's something quick. It's a quick short, as they call it, a quick video. It's a quick statement that's posted. It's something really short that's designed to get your attention, usually to make you laugh, much more to make you laugh than to make you think, because it's much more difficult to post something or post a video that's going to make people think. It's much more difficult. It's much harder to do something like that in 30 seconds. It's possible, but it's much more difficult than it is to say a quick joke or to make fun of someone or to do something like that. You can do that in one sentence. You cannot explain capitalism and imperialism in one sentence. So it is social media, designed for entertainment, and it's designed to be superficial. That's the very nature of these platforms. So as a result of that, it's much easier to grow an audience perpetuating nonsense, because this is how people are socialized to function on social media. It's much easier. And if you think about it, even some of you, and if not you, which I highly doubt that, but if not you, people you know, look at what you share or what people you know share. For the most part, it's stuff that doesn't have a lot of substance. It's stuff that's very superficial. like you see a lot of us, I'm talking about African people now, just as an example. You see a lot of us sharing content about our relationships with one another. And most of that has about as much intelligence that you can feel a thimble in it. The overwhelming majority of the takes on our relationships are absolute absurdity. But this is the stuff that's being heavily shared to thousands of people that, for example, that African women are incapable of having relationships that are not centered around them, and that their personalities are making it possible for them to communicate effectively. This is the stuff that's out here now, everywhere. And this is the stuff that's being shared. And it's extremely superficial. You know, Kwame Ture told us you cannot make any analysis about our people without including the enemy in that analysis. Otherwise, your analysis will always come up short. And this morning on Threads, I saw where a young European woman was on there, and this is exactly what she said. I'm not black, quote unquote. I'm not black, but Black American or African American culture is toxic. Y'all are toxic as hell. And this is the type of thing that's typical of what you see on social media. No analysis there, no context, no inclusion of, even if it's true, I don't believe it's true that we're any more toxic than anyone else. But even if that's true, we certainly are toxic because everybody's toxic in the capitalist world. There's nobody, and anybody that would come on a platform and criticize an entire ethnic group that they're not a part of is demonstrating their toxicity just by doing that. So everybody's toxic. But my point is that no analysis is made, no statement about why this could be, just a statement like that. And so this is, whether you argue, well, it's a bot, whether it's Russia, whether it's somebody down the street from you, that's irrelevant to the point. The point is that so many millions of people get wrapped up in this vicious cycle because that is the basis under which social media exists today. Nonsense has a much higher shelf life than correct education. It's much more difficult to get a high audience through social media by talking about truth, justice, and material reality. People don't have the attention span to stay with that. And even if you speak, like I did a thing for Africa Stream, that was, I was interviewed by our comrades in Burkina Faso, and they put that on. They work for Africa Stream, comrade Sister Inem, and she had them post that, and you know, thousands of people look at Africa Stream, and the comments that I got back, like people, like I was talking about the Palestinian question and how it relates to African liberation, and the comments people made, it's like they had no clue what I was talking about. And it was clear based on how they responded. And it was all about them and what they wanted to say and their hurt and their anger and centering them and not even dealing with the question of Palestine and African liberation. This is how social media is constructed. So like Shakur said, we aren't against social media. It's a great medium. I mean, we use it all the time. We're using it right now. We're streaming on 4 different social media platforms. So we're not against it. It's a methodology we can use to advance the word that we want to get out there. But the problem with it, like everything else, is it's, as Shakur said correctly, it's controlled by capitalism. Whether you talk about Facebook and Zuckerberg and those people, whether you talk about TikTok, and TikTok is owned by a corporation called ByteDance Corporation that's based in the Cayman Islands. You know, the capitalists want to tell you that TikTok is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. That's a lie. But how many people took 5 seconds to research that? That's how I know that it's a lie, because I researched it. And I understand that ByteDance Corporation, 60% of the shares in this private corporation are controlled by venture capitalist corporations like the Carlyle Group, which the Carlyle Group has been a venture capitalist corporation here from the United States and globally for quite some time now. They have absolutely nothing to do with the Chinese Communist Party. So, you know, this is when Shakur talked about capitalism controlling everything, this is an example of that. Like they're the ones controlling what's on TikTok. the Carlyle Group, not the Chinese Communist Party. So stop that nonsense right now. And in truth, these platforms serve the same purpose as all other capitalist mass media, to advance that capitalist agenda. And that agenda is that capitalism is a free and democratic system that emerged by choice of the people who exist within it, and that everybody has freedom because capitalist countries fought for that and built upon these wars that they've engaged in to protect freedom. And so as a result, and this is their reasoning, the capitalist countries are the freest and most democratic countries on the planet Earth, when the reality couldn't be farther from the truth. The reality is that capitalism was built on the and you can't refute it. It's been built on the capitalist system, the transatlantic slave trade. And as a result of that, that has required the capitalists to exploit African resources, human and material, and build a system based on doing that, to build the wealth for the Western capitalist world. And so we give a million examples of that, like the fact that we are able to charge our phones and be on social media right now because of Congolese, Cobalt, and Coltan. And we talked about how the Paris Olympics a couple of weeks ago, the Eiffel Tower and 1 out of 3 homes in Paris are lit up by Nigerian uranium, where the people in Niger don't even have electricity. These are examples of how capitalism exploits Africa viciously. And so in order to justify that, the myth of white supremacy has to be advanced, that there's something wrong with us. And so the fact that there's something wrong with us is the reason why we're in the condition that we're in. And every capitalist platform is committed to advancing those backward and dysfunctional notions about us as a people. And then on top of that, you have class struggle in existence, where there are many Africans today who recognize that there's a dollar to be made by joining this capitalist agenda, which is anti-African in its very existence. And any African that can speak in support of the capitalist system against the African masses has the potential to make money doing that, or at least get prestige and clout. So there are no shortage of Africans who are advancing this agenda for the capitalist system. And this is the basic foundation of what we have today in terms of what produces images, what kind of content is being supported out here, and what kind of content is allowed to grow, as opposed to content like this particular program, for example, and programs like it that have to struggle to get 5 people to participate in this type of information. People don't want to do this. They want to be entertained. They don't want to be stressed to think about things they don't understand. We don't live in that kind of society, unfortunately. It's our responsibility to change that. But that's the reality that we have today. So that agenda is 100% against African self-determination, because African self-determination, by its very definition, spells the end of the capitalist imperialist network. That system is built and maintained on our back. So we cannot have African self-determination and capitalism. That's why a lot of these a lot of these magical Negroes on social media who are trying to present themselves, as the late Geronimo G. Jaga said, as people for our people, when in reality, like he said, they're Black power pimps. That's why so many, you know who the hell they are. I've called them out before, but y'all got to do some work here yourselves too. So a lot of these people who are telling you that they are for the African masses, at the same time are supporting capitalism, supporting patriarchy, you know, that's on you if you don't have the intelligence to differentiate that this is a paradox. These are things that cannot exist together. You cannot say you are for African people and be for capitalism and patriarchy and homophobia. That's not possible. That's only possible for people who have a different agenda other than African liberation. How the hell are you going to be for patriarchy when 51% of the African population are women. How the hell, and patriarchy is a system that exploits and oppresses women. How in the hell are you going to be for African liberation and you're homophobic when so many African people are a part of the LGBTQ community? I'm not saying, I don't give a damn whether you accept it. Nobody gives a shit whether you accept it or not. It's not about you. Nobody cares what you believe. So sick of that. Nobody gives a damn what you think. Your thoughts are meaningless. Okay, we're talking about the liberation of our people. We don't give a damn what you think about another African. They don't give a damn. I don't care what work you're doing and how you're treating other human beings. And so this system of capitalism is always going to be 100% opposed to Africa's self-determination. There's no question about that. And when we talk about this question of social media and African opportunism, you know, it's the statement on the left. Clearly, this is true. We are Africans not because we were born in Africa, but because Africa is born in us. We are Africans not because we were born in Africa, but because Africa is born in us. That's a statement by Kwame Nkrumah, the founder of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And this is an important statement because these videos have some of these people talking about, well, you were born in America, so you're a Black American. I mean, this logic defies history. It might work for other people, but there's no way it can ever work for African people. Because you clowns that are out here advancing that notion, we are people that exist all over the world. I said in the beginning, 120 countries have sizable African populations. How the hell did we get to these countries? Their Africans are more spread out than any other people on the planet Earth. How the hell did we get to these places? We didn't get there by putting a kayak in the ocean and kayak into these goddamn places. We got there because of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. Now, don't be a damn fool. Of course, there were Africans who got on ships and came, but that's a minute number of us. And for you Negroes named Johnson, whose parents are from Louisiana and Mississippi, clearly were the result of the transatlantic slave trade, based on those facts alone, for you to try to argue in 2024 that you've always been in America is a goddamn lie. And we're sick of lying because it's hurting our people. So we're talking about the fact that we are only in all these places because of where the slave ships stopped and dropped us off. So understanding that irrefutable fact, it is absolutely insane for us to not understand Kwame Nkrumah's statement. We are Africans not because we were born in Africa, but because Africa is born in us. The only rationale for us accepting these colonial definitions of who we are is because we are operating in a realm that is designed to validate and support the capitalist system and imperialism. There is no rationale on earth that would argue that us accepting the colonial definitions of who we are, well, I'm just Nigerian, nothing else. I'm just Puerto Rican, I'm nothing else. I'm just African American, I'm nothing else. I'm just African Canadian, I'm nothing else. The only people that line of reasoning benefits are the people that colonized us and continue to exploit us. You cannot name one way that benefits the masses of African people, because it doesn't. So capitalism and imperialism is terrified of the African masses awakening, terrified. So all of these multinational corporations and slime balls and scum of the earth are constantly creating propaganda to keep us from uniting as a people. Even the dumbest and most ignorant and most worthless African on earth cannot argue the point that if we were all united, it would improve our conditions as a people. If Africa was free, united, and socialist, and we were all united all over the world, even the dumbest person on earth would be able to see, well, that would have to have some impact on our existence.
nobody, even anybody that argues against that, that's just you don't even need to waste your that person is dead walking. They just forgot to tell everybody that they died. So the capitalist system is terrified of us waking up. And it's like Malcolm told us, there will always be house Negroes and field Negroes. And these Negroes advancing these notions that we're descendants in America. We've always been here. These are house Negroes advancing this because they have an agenda. They want to make some money. They want some reparation. They want a check from the slave master. They want to be on the slave master's payroll and get a reparations check. That's all they're concerned about. They're not concerned about the liberation of our people because getting a check from their master does nothing to liberate the masses of people. This is why, and I want to say this because a lot of you are just so confused. It's not that we are against voting. If voting served a tactical interest for us, we would embrace that. But our problem with it is that the American capitalist system, as we've said 1,020 times, is built and sustained on exploiting Africa. So anybody that becomes president of the United States of America, their chief responsibility is to advance the international capitalist and imperialist system. And if you haven't been paying attention, that system does not work in the interests of African people anywhere on earth. So when Kamala Harris gets on TV Thursday night and says, like she did, that I am 100% in support of the state of Israel, when she gets on TV and says without any hesitation that I want the strongest military on earth, what she's saying, the message, she's not even talking to you Negroes out here. She's telling the capitalist world that I am willing to step in and be your leader and serve your interests. That's why we're not for that. That is the reason. We don't play identity politics. We don't care that she's a negress. That means nothing to us. We are talking about what's in the interest of the masses of African people. And none of that stuff that she said fits in that category. And that's why we're not doing that. And if you want to do it, that's your business. We're not telling you not to do it, but you better get a movement because this woman sat here on international TV the other night and told you you are not her priority. So if you don't have a movement, I don't know what the hell you think you're going to accomplish without that. So the House Negroes advance this capitalist definition of identity, that identity is based upon where you were born and what language you speak. And I'm asking you all right now, how the hell can a colonized people accept that definition of identity? Because the only language we speak are the languages that the slave master gave us. English is a language the slave master gave us. French is a language the slave master gave us. Portuguese is a language the slave master gave us. Spanish is a language the slave master gave us. None of us were speaking these languages before the slave master whooped our ass and forced us to speak these languages. So here today, for us to define our identity based on these goddamn languages is a sure sign of our acceptance of our colonized state and nothing else. And where we were born is absolutely a result of us being colonized. My parents came from Louisiana. I had a French name before I gave the colonizer his goddamn name back many decades ago. That's a colonized name. That's why I gave it back to him. I didn't want my child, Shakura, to have that goddamn colonized name. So I wanted her to have an African name. Her mother wanted her to have an African name. We were freeing ourselves from those mental chains that still so many of us are wrapped up in. So that definition of identity can never be the definition for free-thinking people. It never can. And Kwame Nkrumah told us correctly that identity is not just our language and where we were born. That's insanity for a colonized people to think like that. Anytime somebody says that to you, you know what their thought process is. And Nkrumah told us correctly that identity is our common history and culture, not where we were born. Our common history and culture. Now, Africans in Angola have a method of getting in the rivers and hitting the river with wooden stakes and doing it in a rhythmic way that makes music. And when I was in the Venezuelan consulate in Washington, D.C. years ago, they showed a movie about this, and they showed us how Africans in Venezuela who were taken to Venezuela, not because they caught an Uber or Lyft, not because they flew American Airlines, but because of the slave ships that took us there to Venezuela. They did the same thing in the river. They hit the river with the wood in a synchronized fashion to make music. That means that what they're doing in Venezuela is not Venezuelan, it's African. If we have gospel music in the US, it's not an American art form, it's an African art form. If we have hip hop here, it's not an American form of music, it's an African form of music that exists despite America's effort to exploit us. That's why when I was in middle school, we had afros and we wore cake cutters. Y'all don't know what a cake cutter, you should look it up. It was a comb you use to comb your hair when you have an afro, a big afro. The old afros you saw the Jacksons wearing, Michael Jackson. I used to have one of those when I was that age, 12, 13, 14 years old. And we used these cake cutters, and they used to sell them in the stores, and they'd have black fist on the handle. And the school started telling us we couldn't bring those to school. We weren't using them as weapons, but this is what you have to understand about our identity. We are at war against this system, and this system, without question, is at war with us. So as Kwame Ture said, everything we do as African people in America is an act of cultural resistance. When you walk out of your damn house in the morning, that's an act of cultural resistance. You have never been an American, and you will never be an American. Everything you do here is as an African acting in an act of cultural resistance, because our identity is our common history and culture. Because what I just said applies to every African in Canada, it applies to Africans in Britain, France, Germany, Portugal, it applies to Africans in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, it applies to Africans in Puerto Rico, in the Dominican Republic, in Haiti, it applies to Africans in Brazil, in Venezuela, and all of you Africans from all of those places, you know that what I'm saying is true. There's no question about that. You know it's true. You might try to figure out how you can fit in these societies, how you can be opportunistic and make something for yourself out of fitting in these societies, but you cannot refute the fact that we have never fit in these societies and we never will. So the counteroffensive is that what we need is that, you listen to these coons and these Negroes, this I don't know, Charlton White or whatever the hell his name, this Waka Fluka, Laka Tuka, Tuki, whatever the hell these people names they're using. Well, I'm not African, I ain't African, I'm Native. You ain't no goddamn Native American. What you are is a confused African who's ashamed of your history and culture, period. You should walk around with a shirt. I'm a confused African who's ashamed of my history and culture. And the coon on top, Africa ain't done nothing for us since we left Africa. Anybody saying that, and he did say that, the video of him saying that, what that makes clear to you is that this is a person that hasn't read one sentence of their history. One sentence of their history. Anybody that says Africa has never done nothing for us since we left Africa knows nothing about our history. I'm not going to tell you what Africa's done for. That's an insult to our ancestors to say that. You just a dumbass fool if you don't take the time to research what that is. I will tell you that we've talked about those contributions so often during this program. We talked about how the Democratic Party of Guinea and Sekou Touré left in West Africa breathed life into the U.S. civil rights movement and the way that they did that. We talked about how Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana breathed life into the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X at the same time, both of them. We talked about how the land and freedom movement, the Mau Mau, influenced the creation of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. We've talked about all of that. So you do your work so you don't end up a dumbass like this clown on the screen. But we need a campaign that's pro-Africa. And the creators of this campaign, those of you that have these skills, we got to start bombarding these platforms with pro-Africa content, pro-African identity content, educational content about who we are, regardless of where we live. And we have to start, we can do this using basic approaches, like the example I just gave. Our names are slave names. They aren't our names. We're not Europeans. So clearly this is not our identity. How we're living is not our identity. These languages don't belong to us. We have our own languages. If we're too lazy to learn them, that doesn't denote or take anything away from the fact that we have a culture. We're just too dumb and lazy to learn about it. We got to help our people understand that and stop listening to these damn celebrities that everything they say, they're just trying to make money. They're not trying to liberate the people. None of these people, these two clowns on the screen, none of them are in an organization. You don't have an organization between the both of them. You don't have one, or you don't even have a nose booger picking organization between both of these fools. You don't have a gas passing organization. I would respect them more if they said, well, we do have, we get together and pass gas. All right, well, at least you got an organization doing something. That's more than what these clowns are doing. So that's what we need from those of you who have those skills and can help us develop them. And we need more people in organizations that are engaging this ideological struggle. There are Africans, particularly from the continent, who are doing their best. Africa Stream is one of the platforms where it happens. Pan-African, I can't remember the name of the other one, where they constantly try to connect with us over here, totally refuting that fool on the tops, Charlton White. You a Negro with a last name White. I mean, that should tell you all you need. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. Like that, I mean, god damn. So there's so many people that are trying to do, but we need so many more of us to do it, to stop this nonsense, stop these people. We got to raise this bar, you all. Stop these people from lying about our history and disrespecting our ancestors. Yeah, I'm mad as hell about that. If I could see them, I'd slap the hell out of them, because our people deserve more respect than that. They deserve more respect than that. And I'm pissed because we allow that to happen. It's our goddamn fault. And we got to decide no more and stop letting this happen. So we want to say to you, we thank you for joining us today. And we want to invite you back next week, September 1st. We're going to be talking about commemorating the Libyan Jamahiriya and its destruction by imperialism. We're going to be talking about Libya. Again, this is a program where we give education. We're not just trying to entertain people. We're trying to lift up our people. So join us next week for that. And the QR code in the upper left has all of the AAPRP programs. Some of you may not be able to handle this one. I don't know. But if you can't, you probably won't be able to handle any of them. But if you want to test that out, you can go on there and you can look. You can go to Hood Communist. You probably won't be able to handle that either, but you can check it out. You can go to the Forward Ever Shop. I read again this week, support black, nobody out here supporting black business. Nobody's supporting Revolutionary African Organization. Do that. Buy some clothes that support Revolutionary African Organization. Tell people about it. You can be the sources that get that about. I didn't take the Black August Pan-African Women's Day flyer down from our event last week because I just wanted to keep it up there again to acknowledge August is still Pan-African Women's Day. We had an event earlier, an international webcast. Join the AAPRP. Go to www.aaprp-intl.org. Contribute to the party at Venmo, PayPal. Become a sponsor of Bikina Books, the bottom right, and support my book. Some of you don't want to do that now because I made you mad. Good, I don't want your support. If you can't deal with the truth, then you're not the one that we're trying to talk to. We're not even talking to you. But if you are someone that can handle truth, my book is a guide for organized defense against white supremacist, patriarchal, and fascist violence. We support our anti-fascist work. If you don't want to support that, you probably agree with the fascists and want to do that. And that's fine. You know, we know that there are enough people like that out here. No question about that. I'm not looking for you to be my friend. I got plenty. I'm trying to get rid of some friends. I got plenty of friends. I don't care at all whether you like me or not. My mission is to bring truth and justice to our people and to all of humanity. And if more of us were like that, we would have less problems. So we say, have a great rest of your evening. Forward ever, backwards never, and enjoy the rest of your evening.